This is the second lecture of contemporary Malayalam literature in English translation. Today we'll be discussing two detailed poems and a short story. The first poem I'll be discussing is Attoor Ravi Varma's Samkramanam. First I'll give an introduction to Attoor Ravi Varma, then we'll move on to the summary and critical evaluation. Attoor Ravi Varma, a poet from the village Attoor in Thrissur, is regarded as one of the pioneers of modern Malayalam poetry. In a career spanning over 7 decades, Attoor has written around 150 poems, and his works are remarkable for its precision, political insinuations, and metaphorical value. He completed his education in Thiruvananthapuram and later became the professor of Malayalam. His notable poems are Samkramanam, Cancer, Megharupan, Purappadu, Guru, etc. And the poems are included in the text Attoor Ravi Varmayude Kavithagal. He has also translated several works from Tamil to Malayalam and edited numerous poems. He has also won several honours like the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award for Attoor Ravi Varmayude Kavithagal in 1996, Ashan Prize in 1997, Kerala Sahitya Academy Award for Attoor Ravi Varmayude Kavithagal in 2001 and Eduthachan Award in 2012. Attoor is one of the most important and relevant poetic voices in contemporary India. He is a milestone poet. He is political, but he is not too loud. He is a man who has written poetry of substance. His poems are imbued with serenity, silence, and loneliness. His poetry is a ticking bomb which can explode any moment. His poetry carries within a subversive energy. He searches for a metaphor rooted in tradition in order to wreck it from within. Now we shall discuss the poem Samkramanam. Samkramanam, which can be translated as metamorphosis or transformation, is an overly political poem. Ayyappa Panikar once said, "The poem questioned and broadened the sensibilities of the Malayali reading public." Samkramanam portrays the transformation of a woman from a victim to an embodiment of revenge. The poem commences with the reference to a dead body which is rotting inside the speaker's body. It is the corpse of a woman servant which is rotting inside him. The speaker says that though he moves around with his nostrils covered, still people far and near move away from him because of the stench. The poem is about a realization. He realizes a woman with different shapes and dimensions. Her presence is invisible and veiled, and her voice is always muted. The speaker feels a sense of sin. As a child, he had seen this maid, and she was like a leech in his eyes. Her child had died of hunger. The poet feels that though she had a woman's head by birth, the sea never roared in her ears. It had eyes only to be closed at midnight. Its lips were the edges of a silent wound. The poet says that she went to bed after every star had slept and woke up with a start much before the sun did. Though she has walked 1,000 miles, yet she remained where she was. Kicked and trodden 1,000 times, she has not yet woken up. The poet is presenting the image of a woman maidservant who used to work in the speaker's household. He had disliked her as a child and had looked at her as if she is a leech. She worked hard irrespective of whether it's day or night and remained without attaining any progress or transformation. She is like a broken record who repeats her task. The poet uses several images to describe her. She is associated with the stump of a broom, a stinking swab, a gruel plate with a warped rim, a lump of earth. But in the second part of the poem, the poet takes a sharp turn. The poet tries to transform the woman into something else, something powerful. It becomes almost like a magical ritual where the poet wants to rouse and transform her into a beast of prey, an animal that kills and eats other animals. He would like to dismantle the restless ghost of a soul like a machine and cautiously fasten it to another body. The poet states, "Not to the body of a woman, creeping like a leech, but to a man-eating tiger on the prowl for hunger." The poet wants the sleeping children to hear the growl of that animal on every part of the world, beneath the mountains, on the other side of the field, and also near the doors of their houses. He longs to take her tongue and fasten it to the throat, not of a stray bitch relishing leftovers, but of a hungry wolf that rounds up and kills and dines on its prey. He would put her ferocious hunger into the forest fires that beset and burn cities and settlements. Her agony will be reflected in the twilight sky, and one can perceive it dripping with pus and blood. He would permeate her curse into the sun, who scorches the fertile fields. Her death thus will become a sacrifice to the goddess who sows the seed of smallpox, represented by the sky with the stars for blotches. K. Sachidanandan writes about the poem Samkramanam, I quote, "The poem with its dense imagery, with radical symbolism, characteristic of much of the Indian poetry in the 1970s, sums up the dreams of subaltern India, of transforming the society through a purifying act of violence." Unquote. Through this poem, Attoor Ravi Varma provides a voice for the subaltern. The poem presents a voice of resistance, and thus the poet is attempting to deconstruct the stereotypes that has been made by society. The second poem I shall discuss in this lecture is K.G. Pillai's What I Said to the River, or Pulayodu Paranjathu. First, I'll give an introduction to K.G. Pillai, then we'll move on to the summary and critical analysis of the poem What I Said to the River. K.G. Pillai is an Indian poet. He came into prominence in the 1970s with the publication of the poem Bengal, and is now one of the most popular among the modernist poets of Kerala. A recipient of the State and Central Sahitya Academy Awards in 1998 and 2002 respectively, his writings in Malayalam have been translated into many languages as well as Chinese, French, German, English and Sinhala. He has been a teacher of literature, starting as a lecturer in 1971 and retiring in 2002 from the post of principal of Maharajas College, Ernakulam. He is also an accomplished translator, publishing Malayalam translations of poetry from different parts of the world. He has also been the editor of several important literary journals such as Prasakti and Samakalina Kavita. He has published a collection of writings on different aspects of theatre titled Samvidayaka Sankalpam. Closely associated with the human rights and civil rights movement in Kerala, Pillai was the chairperson of Jananidhi, a human rights organization. His major works include Kochile Vrikshangal, K.G. Pillaiude Kavithagal, KGS Kavithagal, and Samvidayaka Sankalpam. He won the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award in 1998 for his work K.G. Pillaiude Kavithagal and Kendra Sahitya Academy Award in 2002 for the same work. He was also the recipient of several prestigious awards like P. Kunniraman Nair Award, Odakuril Award and Pandalam Kerala Varma Poetry Award. Now I shall discuss the poem What I Said to the River or Pulayodu Paranjathu. It details the poet's struggle in a pretentious world where he disguises himself as a reflection of those who surround him. He is an imitator of those who surround him, and he doesn't have an identity of his own. The poet is a cynic who has a general mistrust of others' motives. He finds that smile is the most dangerous weapon through which people bury their deep sorrows and disappointments. The poet conveys his sorrows and thoughts to the river and to the wind when he reveals that he is alone in the society with only his shadow accompanying him. In this world of pretensions, he disguises as a happy person wearing a smile, hiding his world of sadness. The poem commences with a beautiful description of the poet sitting in the sand in the river bank. It is evening time. He shares some of his experiences of the daytime to either the river or the wind. The poet then enquires the reader what he must have shared to the river or the wind. Whether he shared it was a hectic day for him and that he experienced some hard and bitter realizations, or that he ran away to the bank of the river, vengefully to drown his miseries in the waves that the river creates. He compares himself to a silver fish caught up in a hook that is writhing in pain. He also compares himself to an old engine in a bus that trembles, making pitiful noises when it gets crowded. He asks the river whether human beings are loved enough in this world of machinery, plants, and animals. Suddenly, there is a shift in the thought process of the poet, and he thinks about what happened later that day. He met a lot of friends that day. They gossiped about unnecessary events and vengefully indulged in the absurd realities of life. They repeated these events daily and made it history. They found theory and value in this absurd and meaningless talk. They made themselves the professors and salesmen for spreading and selling these vengeful spirits. Then the poet makes enquiries to the river, asking whether his life has become a nuclear game of chess in which the players are death and devil. He reveals that he has become alone in this world, and it is only his own shadow that will be beside him when he consumes his burning fire of food. He asks why he became caught up in this disastrous situation of emptiness. Did he become lonely because of the new world order or because of the ancestors that fill the attic? He asks whether it is the curse of the ancestors or the forgetfulness of the responsibilities, or disease or fate to be in such a situation or predicament of despair and isolation. When his friends left, he flowed to the river to share his sufferings. He wanted to purify himself in the running river and to dissolve the burden of his relationships, which he has compared to a sack of salt. He wanted to remove the chains that bind him, and he yearns to wake up like a full moon without any stains. He again resumes revealing his agonies to the river that is smiling at him now. He asks whether he will wait at his door friend for his friends to come back tomorrow, and whether he will enjoy the foaming flattery of his friends like the foaming beer, or whether he will himself flatter his friends imitating their actions and pretend to enjoy by smiling. Then the poet moves on to explain that smiling is a dangerous activity and that weapons can be made out of it. He names every possible weapon of destruction that can be made out of a smile, such as a knife, sword, whip-like blade, and gun. And he calls the guffawing laughter as a smile made out of a bomb or a missile. And he gives his reflection that there is nothing as endangering as a smile. The poet then angrily says that if someone enquires him whether his hatred towards smiling is cynicism, then he will have a single reply for that question. It is a poison-filled entity and darkness in which human beings bury their deep sorrows and unpleasant truths. There is not a grave bigger than a smile that can kill and bury your secrets. The poet smiles back at the river cynically, giving the impression that he buries his sorrows by wearing a smiling countenance. Next, I shall discuss K.R. Meera's short story, Yellow is the Color of Longing, or Mohamanya. First, I will give an introduction to K.R. Meera. Then we will move on to the summary of the short story, and then we will have a discussion on its themes. K.R. Meera is a renowned Malayalam author who has published short stories, novels, and essays. She started her career as a journalist but later quit the job to become a prolific writer. Meera is a multi-award winning writer who entered into the world of fiction in 2002 with her first short story collection titled Ormayude Nyarambbu. Since then, she has published several collections of short stories, novellas, 5 novels, and 2 children's books. Ormayude Nyarambbu was followed by Mohamanya, translated to English as Yellow is the Color of Longing by J. Devika. In 2008, she won the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award for the collection Ave Maria. Her other major works include K.R. Meerayude Kathakal, Bhagavante Maranam, novels like Aa Maratheyum Marannu Marannu Njan, Meera Sadhu, Nethron Melanam, Yudasinte Suvishesham, Suryane Ariഞ്ഞ Stree, and the novella collection Meerayude Novellagal. But K.R. Meera captured the imagination of the readers through her 2012 novel Arachar, translated to English as The Hangwoman. Set in Bengal, the novel is widely regarded as her masterpiece. It narrates the story of a family of executioners with a long lineage beginning in the 4th century BC, and it focuses on the protagonist, Chetna, a strong and insistent woman who struggles to inherit the profession. The novel won several awards, including the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award, Odakudal Award, and Vayalar Award, and the most prestigious, the Kendra Sahitya Academy Award in 2005. The English version of the novel was shortlisted for the prestigious DSC Prize for South Asian Literature 2016. She has also written screenplays for serials and worked as an associate in writing for the Shyama Prasad film Ore Kadal. Meera has a unique style of her own as a writer, and in her narratives she makes effective use of metaphors and images to convey her ideas. Yellow is the Color of Longing is an early collection of short stories by Meera. It depicts the everyday world through the experiences of women. The collection, translated to English by J. Deviga, consists of 15 short stories. It exemplifies how different women comprehend the world and retort to it. Anjana Balakrishnan in her review writes, while some women respond with tolerance, empathy and sacrifice, others engage with love, lust, longing, and yet others with anger and vengeance. The story titled Yellow is the Color of Longing, originally titled as Mohamanya in Malayalam, explores the absurdity of desire and regarding the different facets of human relationships. Yellow is the Color of Longing is an interesting short story in which two patients meet in a hospital ward and are instantly attracted to each other. The author employs everyday settings and everyday people to fashion extraordinary situations to phenomenal effect. The short story proves that love can happen anywhere and at any moment despite countless impediments. Through the story, the author satirically presents the pseudo-morality of the society. When the story commences, Meera gives a description of the unnamed protagonist of the story, a man and a woman. I would like to read the first paragraph of the story, Yellow is the Color of Longing, so here it is. She had jaundice. Really? So everything looked yellow to her. The streaks of grey in his hair, his intelligent eyes, his well-clipped, clean nails, everything. And he had a new strain of viral fever. So her curly hair, pale cheeks, and the tiny black bindi on her forehead were all grey to him. Sitting in that room in the lodge in Gandhi Nagar, she actually thought that he was a yellow man. He thought she was a grey woman. Poor things, nothing more than a woman and a man at the moment. She was 35 plus or minus. He 45 plus or minus. She a divorcee and the mother of two. He married, the father of two. The two characters met at the 24th Communicable Diseases Ward at the Kottayam Medical College. It was like love at first sight. The author states that it was sexual interest commonly found among women and men that was driving them. And it was this same sexual interest that led them to a sort of lodge in that suburb of Kottayam. Narrated in a non-linear manner, the story adopts a flashback. The woman was the first to arrive on that day, and it was raining outside. The man entered shaking off the raindrops and took the plastic chair opposite to the woman under the signboard which read Dr. Sujit Kumar. Meera explains the situation by writing, I quote, he lifted his head and before anything else looked directly into her eyes, the way it happens when one falls in love. Both of them thought of the other. I have seen him somewhere before. I have met her sometime before. They share glances at each other, and the woman found the man lost in thoughts. She contemplates. Was he thinking of illness, of death, or about his children and wife who would be orphaned if he dies? At that moment, she remembers that she had forgotten her tea that morning. Soon the man looks at her and invites her for a cup of tea. It was the first time that she was walking with a man after the breakup with her husband. Random thoughts sneak into her mind as they walked. That day, she had thought of giving up the treatment if the doctor too failed to diagnose the illness. But when she saw her son struggling for breath that morning, she reversed the decision. She thought of her kids as they had only their mother to buy clothes for them in the Onam season, attend PTA meetings, provide gifts for birthdays, and so on. The words of the man brought her back to the present. The man asked her where she was staying, to which she replied that she was staying at Pandalam. Then he mischievously asked her, Did you run there from the troops? To which she replied, No, ran there to light the torches. The man tries to cheer her up through some
humorous statements. They reached the coffee house and the woman disclosed that she is an LIC agent. The man said that he is a teacher. The man paid for the tea and they returned to the hospital. She met the doctor and he wanted her to conduct certain tests and obtain reports. She reached the lab and it was crowded there. When she was standing at the rear end of the long queue, she finds that he was looking around as if trying to locate someone in haste. She was amused to see that peculiar demeanor. She realized that he was searching for her. When he caught her eye, he gently came to her and said that the doctor also wanted him to conduct certain tests and obtain reports. But he said, the results will only be ready by 2 o'clock. The man told the woman that it was better to wait for the result than to go and return another day for the same purpose. To pass the time, they decided to go for a movie. They noticed the poster of the film Kadal Kondain. Hence they went for the noon show, and in the theatre, after intermission, he gently put his arm on her shoulder. She pretended as if she didn't know. After some time, she mildly rested her head on his shoulder. He too pretended as if he didn't know. After the film, they had lunch at a nearby hotel. Soon she started to sweat profusely and everything around her looked yellow. The man checked her forehead and neck with the back of his palm and they decided to move to a place where they could rest for some time. Thus they checked into a nearby lodge. Meera goes on to explain what happens between them. He sat beside her, caressing her palm. They could see themselves in the mirror just opposite. Two poor souls, people with little time left for love, people too shy to love, who were afraid to love, and yet without the courage to abandon love. Forgetting their homes, norms of the society, they made love, and in the evening they left the lodge. When she reached back home, her son inquired what happened to her, and she said, "Nothing, son. Everything looks a bit yellow, that's all." The situation turned worse that night and she was taken to the hospital by the neighbors. Her illness was confirmed to be jaundice, and in the days induced by the medicines and the sick diet, she saw him again and again. She saw him all yellow, even in stupor. Yellow eyes, yellow hair, yellow ears, yellow lips. Her illness cured within a week, and one day, as she was cleaning up the room, she saw him once more, in a scrap of newspaper lying among the plants. Below some writing that mentioned that another teacher had died of jaundice, or something like that. All yellow, yellow, yellow. So K.R. Meera's Yellow is the Color of Longing revolves around a man and a woman who are strangers. They meet at the outpatient division of the Medical College Hospital. The story draws a close parallel between disease and desire, and through it, the writer addresses the issues like sexuality and gender in the background of Kerala. Thus, the whole story can be looked upon in a satirical take on Kerala society challenging its ways of pseudo-morality. So, we discussed 3 texts today, 2 detailed poems and a short story. The first one was Attoor Ravi Varma's Samkramanam. It portrays the transformation of a woman from a victim to an embodiment of revenge. You can expect questions like significance of the title, use of symbols in the poem, comment on the social condition of the women as expressed in the poem, subaltern politics in the poem, how Attoor portrays the transformation of a woman from a meek entity to an embodiment of revenge, and also a critical evaluation of the poem Samkramanam. The second poem we discussed was K.G. Shankara Pillai's What I Said to the River, or Pulayodu Paranjathu. In this, we saw the poet's struggle in a pretentious world where he disguises himself as a reflection of those who surround him. And we can expect questions like the theme of the poem, the significance of the title, how the poet struggles in a pretentious world, and also how the poet portrays smiling as a weapon of destruction. The third and final text we discussed in this lecture was K.R. Meera's Mohamanya, or Yellow is the Color of Longing. It tells the tale of 2 perfect strangers meeting at a hospital The two of them are afflicted with disease. One is suffering from jaundice and the other one is suffering from viral fever. And they have a desire for each other and they consummate their love in a nearby lodge, and the repercussions that follow at the end of the story. You can expect questions like sketch the character of the man and the woman. You can be asked to comment on the ending of the story, the satirical elements present in the story, the writing style of K.R. Meera with special reference to yellow's the color of longing, use of symbols in the story, use of color in the story, the significance of the title, desire and disease in yellow's the color of longing, human relationships presented in Mohamanya, etc. Thank you.